This is dead to me. Everyone's life tells a story. Some great, some not so great. Some will understand, while others have no clue. Respect you while the others fall away. You called yourself my brother. Said you'd be there till the end. Now it's plain for all to see. You're done and dead to me. There's a lot of people talking from both sides of their face. Hands in my pockets, always looking for a taste. When you look in the mirror, do you see a disgrace? Called yourself my brother. Said you'd be there till the end. Now it's plain for all to see. You're done and dead to me. Done and dead to me. Look in the eye and the shake of the head. Loyalty and respect. Or is it wild just to stab you in the back? Do you think you'd ever truly understand? Called yourself my brother. Said you'd be there till the end. Now it's plain for all to see. You're done and dead to me. Called yourself my brother. Said you'd be there till the end. Now it's plain for all to see. You're done and dead to me.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Going back to the early days of Broken Past, that was the second original we had written between myself, my son, Tony Rodriguez, and Jim Beck. And it was the only first time we had played it live. We played it at the Stone Pony for that show. And just kind of felt like, one of the things I wanted to crack out. It's one of my passions. Tonight's episode 99, The Passion of the Wolf. Not to be confused with anything else, despite my little cheeky social media crucifixion thing earlier today. There is no correlation. So again, and it probably makes sense to throw this out here now because the powers that be out there have been definitely getting a little bit edgy about stuff out here. And, listen, I get it. But here it is.
The following program contains coarse language, a lot like real life. Viewer discretion is advised.
Indeed, viewer discretion is definitely advised. For those of you that follow know that's the same disclaimer I use on the radio program. It was inspired by my brother Brian Judah to just kind of keep the wolf in check a little bit, and I don't blame him. You know what I mean? I started doing this podcast before I started doing the radio show, so I got comfortable with certain dynamics of language. And as always, again, the views, thoughts, expressions, etc., 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 are mine and mine alone unless you choose to share them. Take what you need, leave the rest behind. You don't like it, change the channel. I don't begrudge anybody anything when it comes to that. This is cathartic for me in many ways, but it's also become now 99 episodes in, kind of, a little bit of back and forth. For those of you who are watching the video podcast, up on the screen, that's obviously the bearded me. And then Brother Jonathan sporting one of those limited edition pocket full of wolves shirts from the Autism Event 2022. Brother Man came down and supported us, and he's going to be joining me in a few minutes. I want to say hello to everybody out there. Sister Jennifer, my mother. Thank you, Mother, for giving birth to me. I see Monasteria in the audience. Evening, sister. Great to see you, too. I see you got a new last name. You'll have to let me know if there's a meaning behind that, because I don't know. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that your daughter was missing, but I'm glad that she was found, and that sucks that she was found with a trafficker. Listen, we're living in crazy fucking times, and, some of the shit that people do out there just boggles the imagination. One parent to another. Nobody should ever have to go through that. But again, I'm glad that she has been found. Crazy. Shai's getting ready to go to Texas in a week or two. So she'll put some of that witchy shit out there for those who are doing bad deeds. It's crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy. But tonight's going to be a little bit different type of dance. I intend to pretty much crucify myself. Listen, if you can't make fun of yourself, and this is a philosophy that I've carried for some time now, if you can't make fun of yourself, then you are too high on your own stuff. There's nothing wrong with taking the elements and, listen, you got two options. You can let it fuck you up, or you can make it into comedic fodder. Hello, my sister's oracles. Yes, older wolf. Thank you. Anybody who knows me knows I wish I was born on February 30th so I could just avoid the whole dynamic of this. It's just a little odd thing. I love celebrating other people's birthdays, but I've never been really deep on dancing my own. Just one of my little nuances. But I have passion for other things. Shia bought me some funky Cards Against Humanity. She got me the ass pack. But of course, she had to take that little slice shot. She's like, here's your ass cards. I'm like, All right, we're going to see how this game's going to play out. Happy birthday to your brother. Yes, a few people are celebrating a birthday today, and it's as good a time as any to shout out one of them. The lady in the picture with the tattoos, my sister, Suzanne Q. The weird-looking guy in the middle, that's her man, Chris Miller. And that's, again, from 2022's Art for Autism. She also shares a birthday today, February 6th. Yes, I know there's never a 30 in February. That was the point, my mother. I'm supposed to tell them. Anywho, that didn't get to sweep on by. But yeah, she's celebrating a birthday as well. So happy birthday, sister. I'm going to play the track that she and Shia did a little bit later. It was mentioned to me that in all of the 99 podcasts that I've done, I've never actually just done one on my own stuff. I've always had other people's stuff. Even my first one had other people's stuff in it. So, as per requested, tonight is just going to be stuff that I've done directly or collaboratively with people. And higher security. What even goes on? All kinds of weird shit goes on here. If you're somebody that follows Shia, it's not going to be that kind of evening. And thank you for the birthday wishes. It's a little bit different dance here, but we broadcast out on similar channels because she's my girl, I'm her wolf. So you will see some correlations of things. You may hear her voice later on, depending upon how badly Jonathan and I go off the fucking rails, and she may try and reel us in, but that won't work too well. So yeah, my passions run deep. The wolf is not just a label. It is a spirit. It's a spirit dynamic. It's a philosophy. And yes, of course, my mother says, yes, you know lots of stuff about me, Ma. Thank God for that little blessing. And, you know, again, all joking aside, a lot of the philosophies I have taken from her influences. Granted, it took me a few to get around to it because I was a thick-headed, obstinate little lunatic back in my younger years. But you can teach an old wolf new tricks. So I'm always trying to learn them. I want to shout out some folks out there. I mentioned my brother Brian Judah, my brother Ed Contini. These guys are the framework of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there we are, just kind of looking like a bunch of radio guys. Coincidentally, we're all musicians and stuff. I'm working music with them now as well, too. Brian there on the left, he's got a show Sundays, 12 to 3, Rock to Rock. Brother Ed in the middle there with the Swenguli looking grin. He's got a show Thursdays, 3 to 5 p.m. over the edge. And all three of us, Friday mornings, 9 a.m., we do the good, the bad, and the ugly. And yes, Brian's the good. Ed there in the middle is the bad, and I'm the fucking ugly. And I embrace that shit. I dance in some ugly stuff sometimes. Just my nature. I tend to put, again, a comedic spin on things when and where I can. But, you know, listen, sometimes shit's just ugly. And I think we can all relate to that. So, yeah, check out WRFZ, Rochester Free Radio. A lot of cool stuff going on there. I also want to shout out Mama Diane. Much love to you. She is the core, not only of our Sunday Fun Days, but a lot of the elements that have been building between us. My sister Ativia, Brian's wife, she and Diane have a little thing called Lillian, known as Emporium, where they do some really cool crafted stuff. And yes, I am saying he's ugly. Don't speak for me. And I'll behave ugly. I'm just fucking ugly. She's all trying to water it down. Saying, you know, you speak of the bad, and then Ed Contini shows up in the house. Much love to you. He's one of the guys that is part of now the Wolves. We're going to be doing not only some original music, but we're going to be playing out again, as we did back in October over at the House of Guitars. Going to be some cool stuff coming down the pike. So check it out. I'll switch it back around. Yes, no, you may not. Stop fucking doing the peanut gallery from, you're 7 feet from me. And you're trying to converse with me through the text. This is my life. Crazy witch. No, nobody can pet me. So we have fun. We have a really great thing. Again, I got to shout her out. She went out of her way, made me and the monkey a steak and eggs breakfast to start off the day. That was fucking banging. Really beautiful, beautiful way to start off your day with some coffee and orange juice, steak and eggs, made with love. And then she came back from going out and she gave me a fucking potato. No joke. Gave me a fucking potato. There's an inside story there, but we'll save that for another time. And that and some ass Cards for Humanity. That's going to be really fun to pull out. I want to shout out my sisters, Amy and Val, Joyce and Lucy down in Florida, everybody else who has shown a whole lot of love and support. It's been a wild ride, and it's going to get wilder. And that's the beauty of it. Passion runs deep. So I'm going to kick it back to the autism event where we had performed as the Wolves, and a little thing my brother Greg Carr Schumann had written, a little thing called Action. And while that's going on, I'm going to try and see if I can corral Brother Jonathan. He's out there in Oklahoma dancing through the tumbleweeds. And then we're going to come back and it's going to get weird. So stick around, hang in there. Can't make any promises, but we will try. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the birthday wishes. We're going to try to not be too ridiculous, okay? But again, no promises. I can't guarantee these things. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get caught up in that false advertising thing. So anyway, this is from the autism event back in the end of 2022. Myself, my son, Greg Carr Schumann, Bruce J., and Greg and Jeanette's boy, Randy, jamming with us. This was kind of just a raw live recording. Yeah, I'm going to go over the fucking edge. See, what are you trying to say? You trying to say I'm funny, Ed? Huh? Like I'm a fucking clown? Like I'm funny to you? Ooh, Sister Ash Buck, I haven't seen you and you're right. It's fun to be ridiculous. We've missed you. Great to see you. I'm going to keep getting distracted. That's how it's going to be tonight. All right, so here we go. I'm going to get Jonathan on the line, see if I can drag his ass in here. I'm going to pop off the live version of Action from the Arts for Autism Festival, September 2022. And then, yeah, with any luck, I'll be back.
They're all about that one. And we can't thank you enough for coming down here and showing your love and support for the autism benefit. Give yourselves a big round of applause. 10 years doing it. 10 years doing it. Going strong. God bless. How about that, baby? We got some paintings going on? Boy, make sure you hit up all the vendors. Again, thanks for all the sponsors, everybody who came out here showing their love and support for the autism. We were going to beat this bad boy. That is for damn sure. But right now, we're going to get this place rocking a little bit with my boy Randy here. And it's my honor and privilege to bring this one on because this is the youth of America. God bless America and God bless this next band and God bless each and every one of you. Here we go. On the count of three, I want a huge round welcome for Pocket Full of Wall Street 2-1. Randy, here we go, brother. It's time to rip it up.
invitation. Thank you.
All right.
And we're back. Yes, we're live. Jonathan is fighting something in his place right now. I'm not sure who's going to win, but I think he made it through. Welcome, my brother. It's been a few. Been missing you, and I figured this was a good time as any for us to come out here and just go fucking boingo boingo. Again, that video clip was from the 2022 Arts for Autism Festival. Jonathan came out from Oklahoma, spent the week with us in Atlantic City. He got his official, I guess, we'll just, I'm going to go horrible and say you got a true Jersey facial. Atlantic City is definitely an odd little place these days, you know, random junks and junkies and all that other fucking weird shit. And, you know, we had that little spot right over behind the hotel. So we were seeing all kinds of weird stuff over that week. But it was a lot of fun, you know what I mean? It was a great cause. And, you know, we talked about a lot of stuff and, you know, we had our fun and our adventure and stuff. But you and I had started working on music before that, right off the tail end of the pandemic. And the first track that we had done was Time of the Phoenix, which was, you know, kind of a mutual dive into the element of being reborn. And I know for you within your journey, it was something that you felt strongly about. Why don't you tell us a little bit, at least to the best of your ability, what you can remember from them? Because I remember doing, you know, a really cool track, and then we sent it out to Matt in Texas, and he did the vocals and stuff, and it was just kind of born out of the way. We went through like 2 or 3 versions and did some tweaking within the lyrics and stuff like that, but then it really was an organic moment between us.
Most definitely. So for me at that time specifically, I was looking back on things in my life I had done. I would go back and change if I could. And I would torture myself with that shit. And so I just decided, you know what? I'm not justifying the wrong things that I've done, and then just the stupid mistakes I've made either, but I can't change it. So why would I change it anyways? Why torture myself like this? It's made me who I am today. And I'm not that person anymore. So that's where the line, you know, if I could turn back the time, I wouldn't change any line. It was kind of born out of that experience.
Right.
And it's something.
It's a paradox, because you're right. You can't go back and you can't change it. The best you can do is come to terms with it, make peace with it, and hopefully learn something from it to carry into the future.
Exactly. And, you know, me being very Scorpio, you know, not just being a Day of the Dead Scorpio, but if you look at my chart, I have a lot of Scorpio energy in the house of Scorpio. So death and rebirth is something I've gone through many times in my life. I can think of multiple times I look back like I'm not the same person. I've changed so much. So it is a kind of ongoing thing for me, always, you know, becoming better and a different version of myself.
Well, I mean, isn't that really the whole process of life? And you and I talked about it. I remember we were sitting out there one evening before the show, and we were kind of just, you know, debating that whole, you know, the tapestry of the universe moment where, right, you know, you look at the shit around you, and especially where we were, it was really easy to find humility and be like, wow, thank God we don't have to live like this. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that's all it takes, is really to see the other side of the proverbial fence and be like, holy shit, I thought I had it fucked up. This is even more fucked up. And we saw some fucked up elements down there. You know, I remember when we first walked into the casino, and I'm not going to name the casino because I don't want to give them a bad rep, but it literally was like walking out into, you know, like a George Romero, you know, Dance of the Dead type of marathon. It was just like, you know, the old people were like fucking zombies. You had drunks and, you know, hookers, lepers. I mean, all the cool people that, you know, we like that. You know, I always like to make the running joke, you know, I'm very much like Christ. I like lepers and whores. They're entertaining. You know what I mean? But all joking aside, you know, it really was just this godly combination of just, the lowest common denominators. There were people that were stuck there from different parts of the country. You're just like, hey man. And we're just like, yo, don't breathe on me, brother. Don't breathe on me.
Right.
And we did what we had to do. And, we got out and stuff. And my brother Ed Contini knows, because he's a Jersey guy and stuff. It's not the Atlantic City that we grew up with. Something happened at some point, the fucking Contini context just, turned inside out. And, it really is just, it's not a family friendly place, especially at night. But that seems to be the common theme in a lot of places nowadays, especially within larger cities where you have these bigger, constructs of, this or that. Throw some alcohol and drugs in there, and it's just, it's a fucking shit show.
Oh, you don't got to tell me. I've worked for a gas station since I was 18 years old, and I'm not going to say what company, but I have seen it all, especially being an overnight clerk by the Oklahoma City Capitol.
Oh, you get to see the greatest dynamics of fucking humanity, man. And I know you shared some of those stories, and some of them are just like, you have to ask yourself, like, how did you make it past the gene pool? Like, how did this happen? I'd like your insight. Is this like a divine joke sometimes? Is this the great test for the rest of us to be like, hey, we're going to throw these fucked up elements and we're going to see how it plays out. What do you do with it? How do you react?
So my philosophy is everything kind of is. I think we are all the divine experiencing itself, individualized beings, 100%, but also the divine. Everything is one with the divine, that's taken out of the Hermetic philosophy. But the divine, the universe, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, has a fucked up sense of humor. So the divine chooses to experience that through us, if you will. I mean, I knew someone was fucking with me when I was working back-to-back shifts because no one else was standing up. And then one night I had to clean up a dildo out of the men's bathroom. Like, what the fuck? Kind of.
Yeah, listen, it's never a good night as a straight guy when you have to clean up a dirty dildo from the men's bathroom. I'm just saying. Now, in context, sometimes, you know what I mean? Like my brother Ed knows the deep fear of that because his wife is constantly trying to jam pepperoni sticks in his ass and stuff like that because she likes seeing the reactions that he gets. And Ed's an old school Jersey guy. He's like, hey, nobody's fucking with my ass. But watching it play out, listen, we all love it. You would get along really great with Ed because we all have like a dark sense of humor. You know what I mean? We take the elements that usually people run away screaming in fear, and we turn it into a George Carlin bit. You know what I mean? We spin it into, sometimes horrific, but still comedic elements, because it really is. It's the lesser of the two evils. I've talked about this a lot, and I know you share the same philosophy. Some people use the meme analogy. Well, when life gives you lemons, just make lemonade. Well, what do you do when life gives you a big pile of dog shit? You can't make that into a shake. What I mean? So
no, but you can set that aside and find a way to fuck with your enemies with it. And,
well, I mean, that's always an option. Yeah, Shia almost blew out my eardrum. She was laughing so hard at the pepperoni stick thing. We have this thing at Ed and Diane's house every Sunday. We call it Sunday Fun Day, and it tends to reflect some of the deeper, darker spins that happen. But it's all done really in love and in support. But like Ed's wife, she's prone to violence, as those of us that know her. But it's a beautiful kind of violence. It's kind of like that dominatrix violence, you know what I mean? She's the kind of person that if you pay her enough money, she'll put the stilettos on and she'll grind your nutsack into the concrete, if that's what you really want. Now, I know that's not what Ed wants. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it. I don't believe that's your thing either.
They could probably make some serious money doing that shit.
Yeah, right? And this is the insanity of what we live in. Now, some of it also too, and I know just, to get serious and stuff, you've taken a very spiritual journey. You are looking at not just, finding your path and your place and things, but you also have a strong drive to work with and help others. Tell us how that was born, so we can at least cut the cheese with a little bit of positive element.
Well, I grew up very, very sheltered. I was homeschooled K through 12 by very religious parents. And a lot of it was fear-based. Thankfully, I would almost say Christian nationalist level. But thankfully, I didn't, deal with the racism elements or other things people in my situation dealt with. I grew up with all kinds of people, different races, cultures, etc. And our family friends were most of my family. I didn't have a lot of cousins or other things like that as far as family dynamics go growing up around. So it was kind of very eclectic in that sense. But still, that was a very Christian culture. And then my parents definitely had a toxic relationship. And as I got older, I got more curious about, astral projection, chakras, and the like. And I played around with that in my teen years, 16, 17. And after a really, horrible breakup at 19, I really delved more into not just spirituality because I'd already been doing that, but kind of left the Christian context because I'd kept that around me for a while. And I walked away from that. As for my drive to help others, I've been the bad guy many times, but I've also been the good guy. And I'm an older brother. I have 3 younger siblings, and I'm the oldest male out of everyone. I have an older sister.
Yeah, same here. Oldest male, oldest child in my family as well, too.
Well, I'm the second oldest. I'm the oldest male. So I just kind of naturally have that desire to want to help people. And I've noticed it also helps me stay humble and helps me be a better me when I go out of my way to help others. And, being an empath, that's something we're naturally inclined to do, but we kind of sometimes struggle with extremes of being selfish or being too giving. So, I've tried to find the balance and find my own spirituality outside of dogma and things like that. And I found things that work for me, not just with manifestation, but that help me be a better person. Because something I really think I see a lot in the spiritual community, be it witchcraft, law of attraction, new age, whatever, when we learn to bring certain things into our life, there becomes a problem of not wanting to address the core issues that lead to the problems we try and solve. So, that's one thing I try and help other people in this kind of spiritual path or whatever spiritual path understand is, yeah, you can work around it, bring other things in, but why don't you address the core issue within you that's leading you to these things,
Well, I mean, we both know, and we've had these conversations, those deeper, darker elements, they lead to aspects of depression, isolation, addiction, all these uglier elements that are really just symptomatic of what's wrong inside. And again, sometimes you have to step outside of it to really be able to see it correctly. We have a little saying, it was born of my brother, Ed Contini. We call it the Contini context. And the Contini context just basically says everything is a possibility depending upon those details, the variables. So one thing may appear and play out a particular way for you, and then the next person, it's going to play out completely differently. And that, again, reflects the unique elements, not only of us as individuals, but of the experiences in the life. You know what I mean? So you can correlate certain things like, okay, you can create a universal standard for fear. Well, everybody experiences fear to certain degrees and different variations. So it's an easy word, but a lot of times the words become co-opted. And you made a mention of the religious breakdown elements, especially when you have religious conditioning. It's hard sometimes to look outside the box and, examine a little bit more of what has been hidden from us. Because you and I both know, we'll use the analogy of Christianity. You look at the old Egyptian lore and then you look at the New Testament lore, and you really have to wonder, is this just like a DC versus Marvel difference in the story that gets played out? And we have, as a species, again, made the most insanity, the horrible levels of insanity over the conflict of, my God has a bigger dick than yours. And it was something that you and I joked about, but you also, you have some frame references because of your experiences, but you were also very outspoken about the fact that these are just faces on the same theme. Love is love. Tolerance is tolerance. Hate is still fucking hate. You know what I mean? And the things that have been passed on historically, be it from, an element of religious dogma, or you look at some of the co-opted elements that have been related to, the old narratives, be it pagan or Celtic or otherwise, and you can see they're all entwined together like a carpet. All the threads run through each other.
Yes, definitely. And not to mention Babylon, the Old Testament itself, that a lot of that is ripped out of Babylonian text and Sumerian and all these other things, the Canaanites. And so when you start to look at that, or you look at Greece even for the New Testament, you start to kind of see, oh, well, this predates this comes from this. But people don't want to hear that. So, I try to these days kind of steer clear, because I've noticed with family and loved ones and other people, I can't convince them of anything. And I try and make it a point to not do so. If they want to push on me, I'll kind of
people have to find their own way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give them like, okay, a little bit, but I know they won't ever be able to see it from my perspective. So I normally just let them talk unless they get too pushy, or unless I don't know you. If you're coming up to me on the street, I will start ripping your theology apart and be a complete.
Oh, listen, my son loves to do that. We used to hang down the Jersey Shore, and he would wait for the pamphlet pushers to come floating around. Shia has that. You remember when we were on the boardwalk? You remember the one with Shia? Shia just went into the wicked fucking witch mode, and she's just like, I'm a fucking witch. And it was wild to watch it play out. But when you have to dance like that,
I resisted the urge, because I didn't see Shia do that. She told me about it, but when that little girl was talking to me and Will, I was caught off guard. I was thinking about something. He's like, "No, we're good." So we kept walking. She kept saying something. I resisted the urge, because it's like an 8, maybe 12-year-old girl to yell, "Hail Satan, Satan be with you." It's like, yeah, no. If you're an adult doing that, I'll consider it. But it's just like, yeah, no.
But listen, some of it also too, and it's always interesting when these types of scenarios play out. You look at the narrative, you look at the words, you look at the philosophy, and then you have the characters who come out there waving the flag, and you're like me. I always will fucking put that shit on flash. Somebody comes out there preaching something or wrapping around. Like, a lot of times they're the first one to come out and be like, oh, being gay is an affront to, and it's just like, no, shut the fuck up, man. Love, tolerance, those things go out the fucking window when somebody is, outside the box, be it from a sexual dynamic or because of the color of their skin. You mentioned the racist element, or just, simply from the pure philosophical dynamic. We live now in an element that if you talk about wanting to take care of senior citizens, all of a sudden you're a fucking communist. And it's just like, has anybody actually read the manifesto? And do we know what communism? And it's just amazing. But also conversely, and we both have friends who will just be like, listen, I like my guns, just please don't take my fucking guns away. And then, somebody's jumping out of the bush wearing a PETA hat being like, oh, you're a fucking Nazi. And it's just like, no. Just because you may have certain conservative ideals doesn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Now, if you got the mustache and the boots, you know what I mean, and you're singing
a nice World War II
singing Springtime, and Hitler, then all of a sudden, yeah, maybe we got a fucking problem.
Exactly.
But you live out in the land, for all intents and purposes, of the magic underwear, so you're getting it from all kinds of fucking directions out there.
Yeah. I definitely am. And, I'm not left or right in the modern sense. I would be what's considered a leftist center non-authoritarian, so not necessarily modern day Democrat in some ways, others, yes. I lean more non-authoritarian, and both sides have gotten so polarized.
Oh, listen, you can't trust them all. You can't trust any of them.
Yeah, well, if you're leaning towards one side, but you don't completely agree with their authoritarianism, you're immediately the other way. So it's just like, it's gotten ridiculous, man. And out here, thankfully don't have to deal with that as much. But I remember, I've been approached by Trump people while I'm wearing pagan or other things, and they flip out and just it's not as common as you would think. Thankfully, we're kind of getting more balanced, at least in the city area, because I live just north of Oklahoma City. But I do remember a time where, whether it was religious or political, it was those magic underwear wearing people, the fucking crazy nut jobs who want to spout their neurotic shit to just anyone who will listen. So it's like, yeah, fuck this. I am not dealing with that.
Now, listen, and again, you and I both agree on a simpler analogy. We do not begrudge anybody true faith or in the dynamic of true spirituality, because people have the right to engage and believe in the things that speak to them. The difference happens to be, when you're in a public restroom and they're reaching underneath, trying to talk to you about the love of Jesus, and that cheeky little analogy, because usually the ones that are, the most conservative are the ones that you'll catch blowing somebody in a random airport stall or some other horrible analogy. And it tends to reflect the elements, you know what I mean, that, it's fear. It all goes back to this bullshit narrative of manipulating and controlling dynamics based on fear. They're coming to groom your children, man. And it's just like, no, they're not. All right. There may be, and just like in any dynamic.
Few and far between. I point out, statistically speaking, there are less people who have been groomed by that than there have been groomed by the religious leaders.
Yeah, so-called straight white guys. Yeah, I know.
How many youth pastors, both male and female, have groomed, middle school or high school children? They flip the fuck out. But I say, no, if you can't admit this is a thing, I'm not going to have a conversation with you. And that's about the point. They're pissed off enough I can walk away.
But again, and this is the irony. And again, a lot of this now has become weaponized. But you and I have looked at things and gone into the deeper dives, looked at some of the papers that were published from people that had worked within not only the FBI, but other elements of profiling. When you look at, who is doing the bad shit. And it tends to, again, go back to white guys in their late 20s to mid 50s. That's the block. Serial killers, child molesters, rapists. The overwhelming numbers point to that demographic. Now, if we use the same analogy, and this is going to be the fun comedic thing, like what we tried to do after 9/11, it's like, oh, it's all the Muslims, let's round them up. How about we, and again, I'm throwing this is me going on the cross because I'm going to get wrapped up in that sweep. If we just now say, well, all the white guys from 27 to 55, we're sorry, we're sending you to Oklahoma. Use the old George Carlin skit, build a big fucking wall.
Hey, don't send them over here. I got enough.
Well, listen, I know you're at least equipped to fucking deal with it, and I'm going to be there with you, okay? Because I'm going to get rounded up too. All right. But, everybody would, and as insane as that sounds, that's the same type of thing when we talk about, marginalizing groups of people. It's the same, bullshit that's going on, unfortunately, in the Middle East. Instead of having the conversation, it's like, can we just stop dropping bombs on everybody?
Yep.
It's not saying, hey, let's embrace terrorism or, hey, let's embrace this. But, at some point, the rhetoric just becomes so baffling that it's just like, can we please just get back to some honest stuff? And I think that's really more the fear, because when you have the honest conversations, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide anymore. And regardless of whatever your passion may be, how it carries over onto other people. And that's, kind of, again, that fine line of just say, hey, listen, you can think whatever you want. If you want to sit home and, you want to jerk off to your blue in the face with that stuff, that's your right. But just as the same analogy, you can't walk into a supermarket and just pull your dick out. You shouldn't be allowed to throw the other stuff out there. I think it's just as equally as dangerous. And again, all comedy aside, when you talk about elements of marginalizing groups of people, again, regardless of what angle you're doing it from, it runs counter to anything even remotely close to religious dogma or spirituality or anything that's in any of the books, be it the Quran or the Bible, the Old Testament, it doesn't matter, except maybe King James Version, because we know Henry VIII, he snuck some shit in there because, you know what I mean? You know, when you got to get a new wife, you know, you got to have that religious exemption to cut her fucking head off and replace her.
I forgot about that. I don't know how I forgot about that little piece of history there. We got to thank them, though. We got to give them props, because there is some of the Old Testament where it says gods, not God, because originally there's a debate out there. Some people think, you know, Judaism was originally polytheistic. So different parts of the King James Version still translated it as gods, not God. So at least some good came out of that dynamic.
Well, I mean, also, let's really be honest, you know, it at least within the framework of the Reformation said, hey, listen, everybody over here, can you stop abusing us? Because that was really, I think, one of the key component drivers, at least, was that there was already, even back then, such blatant hypocrisy and corruption within the system. I mean, the Vatican was basically at the center of most of the wars that were going on. They were fucking children. They were, doing all kinds of ungodly shit and then terrorizing the locals, because under that old set, they weren't even good enough to have the word. You see where I'm going? It was just only if you spoke Latin and you were of such a class, did you even get the chance? They really just used the whole edict of God. Well, yes, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, as my mother says. Yeah. But even in just the general practices outside the Inquisition, you look at how England was, and again, you look at, the Reformation and some of the uprisings that happened when Cromwell, really just started dismantling, the abbeys and the old structure. And, even still to this day, you look at the Irish between the Protestants and the Catholics, that shit is still there. It's the same analogy in the Middle East. You have the Jews on one side and everybody else, you know what I mean, which has unfortunately been the narrative for thousands of years, but it always goes back to this, my God is a bigger dick than yours and therefore is better. My God says, you're an infidel, you got to go. You're less than. So that means, we're going to sell you into slavery, or we're going to castrate you or feed you to the fucking lions. Also, and you and I have talked about this a lot, every culture since the beginning of time, at some point or another, has been marginalized, has been abused, taken advantage of. You know what I mean? It is an unfortunate human dynamic. You know what I mean? The Vikings were doing it. The Aztecs were doing it. The Spanish and the Portuguese were doing it. We were doing it, and this is not even getting into, the shit that was going on, when Alexander, marched across Europe into Asia, or you look at the expansion of the Roman Empire, or so many other analogies in different parts of the world. You see it in, Asian cultures, you see it in South America. So he's just really, again, just reflective of who happens to be looking at a particular place in a particular time. South Africa went through their thing. They came out the other end of it. And now we're dancing the things that we are. And it's always amazing because people are always like, yeah, we started this country. And I'm like, no, we stole this country and wiped out the indigenous people, put a flag up and said, hey, it's mine, fuck you.
Yeah.
But when somebody else tries to do that, they're terrorists. Like, oh, well, that was 200 years, and it's just this nonsensical argument that we keep changing the goalposts. But the horror of it sometimes, and especially with what's going on now, people are afraid to have the conversations.
Oh, yeah. one thing I kind of want to flash back to when you were talking about the 9/11 and that incident, it made me think of it. I didn't say it. That's been done in our history. It wasn't just something we thought about doing. We did that in 1942 with Japanese Americans. And
Oh,
God
yeah.
forbid
They were interned after Pearl Harbor. Absolutely. Yeah. We've seen a few examples of it over the years, for different things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I really hope as a culture and a society, we can get away from wanting to marginalize each other and all this hate, man, and find a middle ground, just set our differences aside. But I don't necessarily see that happening because
no, not without great horror. We need zombies or War of the Worlds, Martians coming down. We need something that definitively is so far outside the box that we have no choice but to come together as a species. No more black, red, yellow, Christian, Muslim, just like, holy shit, there's giant bugs and they want to fucking eat us. So we got to fight it, and I think that's just, unfortunately, the human dynamic. Without that great catalyst, without that massive motivator, things don't tend to change. People are comfortable, they're apathetic, there's no reason. So, we talk about like the climate, stuff that's going on and the environmental issues that reflect within it. A lot of people are like, well, it's not warm here or it's snowing there or blah, blah, this, that, and the other thing. The bottom line is we're fucking up the environment. So until something happens where you can only go outside for 45 minutes a day because it's so fucking toxic outside that you literally, if you're there for 48 minutes, you just, you fucking melt. You know what I mean? Or,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Or some other horrible shit. Until something confronts us to put aside the pettiness, I don't see the powers that be. They're not going to give up control. They haven't. They've made it into an art.
In my opinion, there's a way around that. It would be if people realized, whether they admit it or not, this hatred, these kinds of things, these dynamics we're talking about, have became a part of their identity, whether they're conscious of it or not. They say one of the easiest ways to make a change is make something a part of your identity. And so I feel like why people cling to this hatred so intensely is because it's a part of their identity and they don't even realize it. It's tied into their ego and they have all the reasons to justify it. So I don't even know if a big world event would make people give it up, unfortunately.
Listen, because we've seen examples of it that have played out to certain degrees, and there have been shifts. And, again, historically, there always comes, like the angel of death comes by and starts snatching the firstborn. Or, in the case of, say, like a Hurricane Katrina, people did get together a little bit more and focused because it was a natural disaster. Granted, it wasn't a global shift, but there are moments where you can see, you look at Dr. Martin Luther King, he got so many people down to the Capitol to talk about it. And as my mother said, the pandemic didn't. But I have said, and I'm going to stand behind this, I think the only reason why the pandemic didn't make the shift that we really needed, because not enough fucking people died. And this is the flip side now of our science and technology. And I think most people are happy because they don't want their loved ones to die. But I think that was simply the narrative. Too many people looked at it like it was just a fucking cold. And in many ways, it does present as just a fucking cold, unless it kills you. You know what I mean? And right. That's where, it gets lost in the mix. Again, if it isn't affecting me, quote unquote, not my problem, not my business, I'm going to go back and, do the things that I fucking do. And, even with these latest waves, and I've seen it, there's not a lot of will to go through that stuff. I think most people are resolved. They would rather, if I get sick and fucking die, I'd rather get sick and die than be trapped in my house. As insane as that actually sounds. And, maybe again, It's going to be an environmental thing. I think soon that's going to force a narrative, when Florida is under fucking water. Yes, my mother made a great Stephen King analogy. It wasn't Captain Trips. So here, boys and girls, if you really want to read about how that little scenario of COVID could have played out, read Stephen King's The Stand. Okay? All right. Take a dive into one of, an American, a genius writer. All right. He doesn't just do horror. And The Stand really, gets into the elements, not only with the religious dogma, but our balance with just simply, as you said, the concept of good and evil. It's really easy, you put a face, oh, Satan, you know what I mean? But evil is much more polished and nefarious and comes out in really fucked up, funky kind of ways that people are like, oh, isn't he great? You see where I'm going?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's much more cunning. A dark magician I follow made the analogy, and he's not a bad guy. Dark magicians get a bad rep, but he does things I don't necessarily agree with his philosophy 100%. But he made the analogy: if I was a spiritual predator, I wouldn't be calling myself a Luciferian or Satanist. I would be a white lighter. I would be in disguise if I wanted to steal people's energy. I would come off as someone really good, and I would really ramp that up.
Well, it's the old school analogy of the wolf in the sheep's clothing. Like, the wolf isn't just going to stroll down into the herd so they can all panic and run away. No. Gonna, separate the weak ones and come from an angle, and you're never going to see it fucking coming until, that's your ass. But it is, and I think it has played out, unfortunately, too many times. You look at the cults, like Jim Jones, I make the Kool-Aid joke, but, a lot of people bought into pretty much a death narrative. Now, if you just, again, even jump one or two steps and you look at some of the twisted, I guess you could say, mass fucking insanities that have been going on lately, it isn't a hard stretch. To say, well, this is the common denominator is that, yeah, you're not going to see evil blatantly jumping out. Like, again, you can make a case and say this, that, or the other thing, but historically, the most horrible and dangerous of our kind have always been hidden behind the flag of either religion or government or, positions of power, people who, supposedly, no, there's no way he could be that way. And then it's just like, holy shit, that motherfucker's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. How many times has a serial killer someone found? His neighbor's like, oh, he was such a nice guy. Oh, he was quiet. He didn't bother nobody. All this shit. Or I don't remember who it was that had been found, but she was found after like 15, 20 years. And his neighbor was talking about, we ate ribs with this dude. No one had a clue he had that girl kidnapped up there, and she had like 2 kids. I don't remember the name of the case, so if someone does, please throw it out.
There are so many examples of it that, again, as a society, I think we've become numb to it. We've become apathetic, again, unless it affects somebody close to us, somebody that we know. And that's just, an unfortunate side effect now, not only of technology, but I think also, too, how fear has been weaponized. Again, it runs full circle why I use comedy, why you use comedy, why a lot of us use comedy, because there really isn't a lot of things. You can't argue logically with people that are dancing in the mouth of madness. Okay, you can just forget that shit. Okay, it doesn't happen. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't give a fuck what you have to say. And especially if they're off on some fucking mission from God, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can bet your sweet ass, unless you got a fucking magic wand, it isn't going to happen. So you have to use the other tools that are available to some degrees. And, you can use sarcasm and humor, granted. And we both know that sometimes that will push people further. Now, I do that sometimes. I look at it like, okay, there's a stick of dynamite there that's burning, and it's got a really long fuse on it. I don't feel like sitting around and waiting for the fuse to get to it. So I'm just going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to trigger you all the way so we can get to what inevitably is coming next anyway. That's just my philosophy on it. But there is a case that sometimes you can pull the fuse. You can distract people with humor. You know, we shouldn't have to wear masks and pretend, but, you know, Contini context being what it is, you know, depending upon the situation, yeah, sometimes you just got to smile, nod your head and pretend, and then, you know, get the fuck out the door and hopefully never end up back there again.
Yeah, especially for those of us who work customer service. Sometimes we have to wear a mask, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, all the fucking time.
Yeah. But in our heads, you know, you would be shocked at what your customer service reps are thinking if you're causing them problems, what fantasies they're having involving you in their head. I think I've mentioned to you before, there have been times I just had my hands around the throat of someone in my head, but I was all, you know, polite and calm.
Well, we both do the people watching thing. We create little, you know, comedy scenarios about, oh, yeah, that right there is somebody who just got released from the Universal School of Child Molestation. You can see he just got his degree. He's searching around. You can tell by the taint of his ball sack hanging out of his Speedos that he's on the prowl right now. I remember like seeing some of these characters and you're like, holy shit, man, I wouldn't trust this dude to make a peanut butter sandwich, let alone hang around my kid. You know what I mean? It's just like...
I think I told you I have a regular like that who comes into my store right now. I'm not going to say his name, but for whatever reason, corporate won't let us ban him. But he has told one of my coworkers and looked her up and down and said, I go to the mall to look at girls like you. He has admitted to us he goes to the mall to leer and that he hides. And we can't ban him. And, you know. Well, because
there is a constitutional right, basically, as long as you're not hurting somebody, there's no law against being fucking creepy. You sure I'm going? So you're kind of shit out of luck.
It gets weirder. It gets funnier. Like you can see him. He buys a bunch of pizza, or he used to buy pizza, like 3 slices a day or Cheerios. And you could see him if someone attractive walked in the store, all the way from the other side of the store, he'd be eating, leaned over with his eyes glossed over, and you could see just this creepy grin on his face. And he's very obviously gawking. And it's just like, what the fuck? Do you have no dignity, dude?
Of course not. See, again, this is the mouth of madness. You're never going to understand it. You're never going to make sense of it. It doesn't play into anything that's real for most people. You see where I'm going? So it is. Oh, yeah. It is the proverbial pissing in the wind. It isn't, you know, you can't. Don't get me wrong. I understand. And Shy and I have this awkward dynamic because she is just so people loving. You know, when we first met, you know, she was embracing the junkie that worked at 7-Eleven like he was a long lost brother. And I was ready to go. I was ready to have a fucking seizure, dude. I tell you, I could not believe what was playing out in front of me, but the woman was interesting enough. And, you know, I felt compelled. Well, I have to let this play out. But man, if that motherfucker had made a move for her purse or any of that, I was going to go full on Captain America. But I can't do that. I just can't. You know, I want to love people, but the wolf in me, you know, and I catch a scent and I'm like, oh, smells like bullshit. Fuck this. You know, and I can't help it, you know.
Yeah, I just try and laugh at it now. It's kind of became a running joke. You know, we kind of make fun of him at this point. The entire store's got running jokes. But yeah, no, I get that. I get that too. I'm in between. That
isn't to say that we don't have empathy and sympathy, because you remember I went out that one night and there was a homeless guy that was walking around, and for whatever reason, the universe said to me, say, hey, go talk to this guy. Just because a person is homeless, just because a person maybe is going through a low time in their life, doesn't necessarily make them bad, doesn't make them garbage. They're just going through whatever the fuck they're going through. And he was actually a nice guy. He was an educated guy, but his addictions had basically destroyed everything around him.
Yep.
And, he didn't know how to break the cycle. So, just spending some time having the conversation, breaking it down, I don't know to what real degree did it make a difference, but it made a difference in the moment. You know what I mean? That he didn't feel like a worthless piece of garbage, and, Sean and I both have this, dynamic. It's pretty funny. I don't know if you remember the guy, the drunk guy that was playing guitar on the boardwalk?
Yes, I do.
He was a cool dude. I mean, I felt so bad. I'm just like, all right, I got to buy this guy lunch. Sometimes the wolf is a sucker. I'll look at a person and, I feel so overwhelmingly bad, even though in my brain, I know, this person probably, dug this particular hole they're in, but we don't always want to assume. So, a lot of times, and, it's the same narrative why we do charity work and stuff like that. The joking part being the deflector, being the compensator. But I also know you are very active in actually trying to help people around you when the situation presents itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will literally give the shirt off my back if someone needs it. If they genuinely, truly need it.
But it's always, it's not easy. It definitely leads to the quandaries.
No, I remember times, I normally don't talk about the good deeds I've done, but I remember one time I was working at a different location I'm at now. Again, I've been doing this 7 years, and some woman was in a tank top and jeans, and it was about to ice. Oklahoma doesn't get much snow. We get a lot of ice, and it was fucking freezing out, like bad. And her husband had thrown her out of the house. I don't know the reason. I don't know what was going on, but she said she was told not to come back. And I was thinking, God damn it, I have to do this. So I went to the back, grabbed my coat because I had another coat at the house. It's not going to hurt me to give away one of my, winter coats. And I was like, here, at least you have this. I can't do anything else for you. I didn't have money to do anything else. But I know that really impacted her in a positive way, and it's things like that.
Sometimes it's the little things that make the most difference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Listen, I'm going to use this. I'm going to segue. I'm going to play the track that we did, Time of the Phoenix. And I have the little video version thing that got created out of it with that little graphic at the end. That was really cool. And then we'll come back. We'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk about the new one, Ritual and stuff. And then we'll see wherever the fuck it spins around. So stick around, enjoy Time of the Phoenix as performed by the Wolves, Matt Brown on vocals, written Jonathan Porter. You got my son on that one. You got Jeff Thal on drums, and then obviously me. I'm the guy who does guitar. So sit back and enjoy the ride, and we'll be back.
Turn back time, then I wouldn't change any life.
by, life goes by, the times are right to die. Days go by, years go by, life goes by, the times are right to die.
So yeah, that was Time of the Phoenix. Little thing that we did toward the end of 2022. Now, that ending graphic, I know, was very special to you. The gentle element, to be gentle to myself, had a particular meaning for you. Why don't you describe in your own words, that correlation and what it meant?
It was just someone back when I was involved with the Unity Church out here. Nothing against the Unity Centers anymore, just different dynamics. I left, but they made the point, I'm torturing myself with, if I could do things different, you need to be gentle with yourself. So I took that and made a sigil, what we call in, Western magic, chaos magic and the like, a sigil out of it. And I sent it to a friend of mine, I don't really have contact with now, but she said, go ahead and use it for the video. And she redrew it. She drew it much better than I could. She even asked about the details. Is that a feather? Is that this? And she did a pretty damn good job.
I think it's a beautiful thing, right? That's why we put it in there. And that was one of the first videos that we did. Doesn't even have like the copyright stuff that I do now on it or any of that stuff. We literally just put it together as an old school type of thing to get the music track out there, because we had also both agreed and had decided that we were only going to put it on the free platforms. We weren't going to submit it into places like Spotify or Apple Music and stuff. That this was going to be, okay, this is something, if it speaks to you and you like it, here it is. The only thing that we said is, don't turn it into a fucking commercial without talking to us first, because I'm sure as shit, and we joked about this, is like, hey, listen, if we're not making money off of it, nobody else is making fucking money off of it.
Fucking exactly.
So they go fuck themselves. But
and if anyone tried to, they're dealing with someone who practices magic and witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. I prefer the term magic or whatever. That is not a wise idea to try and steal and make money off someone.
They don't know that. And listen, here's the other side of that coin. And this is what I love about it. Until it comes up and bites them in the fucking taint. You know what? Right, sure, pretend, ignore it. People did that with radiation back in the day until their lips started falling off and, their fucking hair fell out and, all of a sudden 6 weeks later, holy shit, half the people in the village are fucking dead. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was witches or demons. It's like, no, it was just radiation, you fucking, but again, we didn't have knowledge to certain degrees. And, also to some degrees, it's the out of sight, out of mind. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but, energy is real. So negative energy or any other framework, again, using the radiation example, it's going to do fucking damage. You know what I mean? So, when people deal in bullshit, it's just a matter of time before, guess what? You're going to get a bullshit reaction from it. It comes back. It's just not a question of if, it's just a question of when does it come back around.
Yep. You drop a ball, it bounces back, Yeah. It's the law of cause and effect. We see it manifest in other places. Why wouldn't it be if you try and fuck with people, other things are going to come back to you?
Now, again, there's always the case analogy of, the context and, the degrees, and I'm not saying that we should just all sit around and magically wish things will get better and that karma will fix it.
No.
Because, as mentioned in the beginning of the show, the universe has a pretty wicked sense of humor and be like, I don't think it's going to play out like that.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this new one while I have you on here. We started this one a couple months ago and started dancing back and forth. And, the way you had explained it to me, you really wanted to do something that was more specific to your magic. So again, in your own words, tell us a little bit about Ritual, where it was born, and what it represents.
So I had gone through like 5 different drafts for that, trying to throw different astrological mysticism things in there and other things. And I threw a couple things at the wall, so to speak, and worked through some of them. This is what stuck. This is what really came to me. And I can't say I entirely wrote it myself. I definitely feel like I've channeled it from another power. And I drew some things from the Necronomicon, the Simon Necronomicon, not to be confused with whatever his name is, who made different stories up that were fiction.
Yeah, it's not the Evil Dead version.
No. And that, yeah, it was made by a guy, but it does draw from different Sumerian things that are legitimate, that are historically proven. I took a small piece of that and then took another part of my path, which is kind of comes out of the story, if you're familiar with the 12 Labors of Hercules, where he is fighting the Hydra in this cave, this swamp in a cave. And that is actually a story for my sign, for Scorpio. He is cutting the heads off, struggling with it in the swamp, in the muck. And that can represent us in our minds and in our life fighting these things. And he got the intuition how to defeat the Hydra was to raise it to a higher power. So when I'm giving myself up to the divine, hey, whatever does not serve me, which is the point of the song, whatever is not supposed to be, take it from me and leave whatever else needs to be, remain, or take it all from me. Make me something anew. Kind of like being reborn, but being reborn with design.
Nicely said. I know one of the other things, and we did this one a little bit differently remotely and in creating it, because we didn't want it over processed. We wanted it to reflect the organic element of it. So we kind of toned it. And I remember we had gone through a couple different variations of, all right, maybe it'll sound like this, maybe it'll sound like that. And you had chosen, the particular framework of what it is now, but also in just simply in its presentation. You know what I mean? Because it is in many ways, I feel at least, a guided ritual. You know what I mean? It's the type of thing, and I've gone back at it now a couple times and used it as that reflective element. You just have to open yourself up to it. It's just one of those things like anything else. A lot of people, and I'll use the analogy of like the Audible books. You'll listen to somebody telling the story, or not unlike a song, somebody singing it. So this one takes a little bit different approach. So we're going to cut to that because we're going on the 9:30 mark, and I wanted to have that in there. See, even I'm trying to do a little bit of like production scheduling. This is what's happening from working at the fucking radio station now. It's like right. my mind is like, okay, I got to do the segments. I'm looking at the fucking clock because I'm thinking, oh, I got to do a station ID, and I'm like, no, you're doing your own fucking podcast, dummy. You don't have to do. But my mode now is shifting into FM production.
Hey, old habits die hard, man.
Well, these are new habits, and they're killing the old habits. So it's actually reverse psychology right now. See, like you said, the universe has got a wicked sense of humor. It's like, you thought you were done, man. You thought you were comfortable. Aha, fuck you. All right.
New habits too, I guess.
Yeah, listen, it's like everything else, you know what I mean? You got to kind of take it for what it is. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to spit in the universe's face, because I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the people around me. So I recognize it's just like, yeah, you know what I mean? There's going to be a little bit of heavy lifting in the process, and I got to make adjustments. But listen, ultimately, when we can own our own shit, we're better served. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And to some degrees, I know that's part of why you wrote this was, you needed to frame these. You needed to put a voice to it.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, so we're going to jump to it, and then we'll be back.
In the sacred circle of all sacred circles I stand, before the altar therein, the altar of the divine guardians, remember, I call on thee to come, surround, hold, and protect this sacred space. O divine ones, I call out to thee. Lord of the sky, remember, hear my call and answer my urgent prayer. O Lady of the Earth, remember, hear my call, and answer my urgent prayer. O Spirit of the Universe, Spirit of all, remember, hear my call, and answer my urgent prayer. God, Goddess, Spirit, I beseech thee, I request your aid in my great work. I have found myself unbalanced, for I do not live up to my potential, as I do not sacrifice properly. I have overly sacrificed of myself throughout my whole life. I have sacrificed myself to several individuals, groups, and causes who were not worthy of me nor my sacrifice. For they had no regard for my nor others' potentials, nor our highest and greatest goods. I request to be delivered of improper sacrifice, so that I may embody my true potential through proper sacrifice and care, so that I may only sacrifice myself to those individuals and those causes which are truly worthy of me and my sacrifice. O Divine Ones, I lay down before you all of myself. I lay every aspect, every faculty of me upon this altar. I lay down all of my past and all of my burdens. I lay down all of my emotions, my emotional body, all of my mental body, and all of my spiritual body before you. I surrender all of my habits and all that I have taken on as a part of me that is not truly of me. Take all of this and all of me as a sacrifice unto you. I am the offering laid out before you. In this may I embody you all forever by living up to my greatest potential. So mote it be. O Divine Ones, remember, thank you for hearing me and swiftly answering my urgent prayer. Lord of the Sky, remember. Lady of the Earth, remember. Spirit of all, remember. Divine Guardians, Spirits of the Earth and Sky, remember. Thank you for your presence.
So yeah, little bit of spin around my brother's ritual. And again, I just, when we talked about it, we were just like, let's just call it ritual. You know what I mean? Just simple. Like, let's not try and convolute it. You know what I mean? It does have a little bit of that funky dynamic. And you see why I chose the visualization that I did. We were joking around while it was running and stuff like that. Some of the hardest things sometimes to do when you're trying to create like binaural beats, or you're working within certain dynamics of frequencies and timing, is getting, a visual, and in this case, fractals, to time in with the energy you're trying to create, because they are all reflectives. One of the things that you and I have talked about a lot is that within the dynamic of music, there's so much that can be conveyed.
Definitely. The possibilities are almost endless, as with any form of art. And it is almost a science, I would say, in how you make the dance move, so to speak. How do these
great analogy? Yeah, it is a dance
and move together. Or you could even use the analogy of sex or making love if you want to go that route. How do these things complement each other and move together? How do they flow? Kind of thing. So it's a very empowering thing, in my opinion. And I've been into music off and on. I never really devoted myself to it fully as far as learning an instrument goes. But I think it is a very empowering thing to engage in something like that, because not only does it help your brain, your mind, and give you an outlet, it is something you can use to empower yourself and others. Create something that everyone can kind of grab onto and relate to and utilize to help them in some kind of way, however they need to.
And it's great therapeutically because you can channel so many different internal elements. I remember, and I don't know if you remember when I first showed you what I did with demons, and we had talked about the religious overtones, and that was a heavy dive that not just so much for me, but I got Will involved with it, and Will's the one who pulled all the anime elements of it to kind of rewrap it and, you know, tell the story with visual as well too. So it kind of reflected for both of us, you know, this cathartic, you know, moment. Me, you know, my early childhood years with, you know, the deep Roman Catholic rituals. And then for him, the analogies of his exposures to it from the outside. So he didn't get the conditioning part, but he saw the other elements of it around with other people.
Right.
And he saw it especially framed in elements of art, aka anime. So he felt that, you know, this narrative made sense. It was his translation of it. And it is a really wild. I'm gonna play it in a little while because that and Time
Awesome.
of the Phoenix were the first two tracks, you know, that we all put out and stuff like that. And you remember, you know, I was going, you know, batshit with just, you know, retweaking and redoing things. You know, again, we talked about it with Time of the Phoenix.
Yep.
You know, that one went through many variations before we actually, you know, released it as a completed track. And you were joking. You said a friend had reached out to you and made an analogy about it sounding like Pink Floyd. And I had a friend of mine, Tom Hampton, who said a similar thing. He said it sounded like a combination of Pink Floyd and Alice in Chains. So he was jokingly referencing us as Alice and Floyd.
I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, and it felt good. I'm not going to lie. You know, it was one of those moments like, well, listen, if the worst thing that somebody has said is that we sound like, you know, like the bastard child of Pink Floyd and Alice in Chains,
we're doing pretty damn good.
I'm going to take that. You know what I mean? I'm going to take it and be happy with it. It's not, again, you know, something that is obviously dependent upon anything else. You know, you've been with us for a while and stuff like that. So we produced and done everything internally. So, you know, there's no record labels or any of that, you know, blah, 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 you know, type of bullshit. And I have obviously, you know, and you know this because we joked around about this, you know, I went through a heavy learning curve of mastering everything from home here, you know, expanding on, you know, some of the tools and the software. And, you know, I did that shit piecemeal. You know, I got a piece here, got a piece there.
Hey,
and I was like,
God for the internet, man.
Right. It's like, hey, check this shit out. You know, and finally got it to a point where, you know, it was working and, you know, at least, you know, functional to the degree that, you know, it didn't sound like it was just, you know, recorded in a toilet, you know what I mean, on a fucking flip phone.
Yeah, definitely. And thank God for the internet. I'm sure that's how you learned a lot of your skills you have now to do this kind of thing is through, you know,
to some degree, some of it was that, but a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, was trial and error. You know, it was a little bit frustrating because for the most part, the things that I was trying to do, most people aren't doing within the framework of their home studios. So, you know, there were little things about this and that, but the finer point of it are really based on, you know, what you hear, you know. So depending upon, you know, how you translate a particular thing, you know, I've heard people put out things that, quote unquote, they paid thousands of dollars for. And I'm just like, wow. You know what I mean? There are so many fucking holes in it.
Boy, did you get ripped off.
Yeah. And, you know, and I know people who've done their own productions, bands that I've had on here, that sound fucking incredible. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, so that it isn't, you know, a black or white kind of thing, you know, depending upon who you're dealing with. But I mean, in the simplest terms, you know, we have, you know, we have technology in our homes that was better than the Beatles had when they were making their shit. So,
Absolutely.
if the Beatles can do it with their stuff, I'm not going to make excuses about not being able to put it together, as they say. So, what do you got on tap for you coming up?
Right now I am working on creating a Etsy store or website. And I'm going to be offering angel magic for hire to start, maybe some candle magic. And I've noticed a lot of people will charge and that's on the low end, $300 to $500 or more for a one-off shoot. And I'm just thinking, and yeah, you don't even know if they're going to do it. You know what I mean? For me, if I'm going to charge $300 or something like that, I'm going to do an 11-day call, and I'm going to do that kind of ceremony, and maybe like $50 or something like that for a one-off shoot, because you don't have to do an 11-day call, but it can be more effective in some scenarios. So that's something I'm working on. I'm also angel healing certified, so I'll probably offer something like that as well, and maybe sigil design or something to that effect on my store. And I am considering starting a podcast, and it won't necessarily be a live dynamic. I'll probably break down different philosophical things.
Oh, so I can come on your show and just go fucking boingo boingo.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, so those are some things I'm working on right now, amongst other things I'm doing in my life, trying to get into a different career and all those kinds of things.
Nice. Well, we got to keep doing the music for sure. You definitely have.
Oh, absolutely.
You have at least, again, a good understanding, not only of the process, but, an honest framework about, getting stuff out there for people, be it in the form of a ritual or, just a song or, any number of analogies to give them better tools, to give them insight, to give them hope, give them things and be like, hey, you are somebody else actually, went through something like this. Maybe somebody else will understand, because you're really big on the mental health dynamic, because so much of this inevitably leads to mental health issues. We question who we are, we question our place, we question our value, and they set the stage for all the other horrible shit that comes after.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Nietzsche dynamic, stare along into the abyss stares right back into you. If these things go unaddressed, they can turn you into a monster, kind of like he was talking about. And I really like helping people with not just mental health, but other things, like you're saying, how things can be applied in these different dynamics people can relate to. I like to give people a safe haven in that, because not everyone has a safe haven to go through. So if I can give someone something that gives them that, and this world that can be really fucked up, I think I'm doing pretty good, and I'm doing something I'm proud of.
Well said, my brother. Well said. All right, listen, I'm gonna crack out demons, because that was one of the ones that was specifically requested. So I have to be the good wolf. And again, listen, I was
one of the really good ones.
Listen, I was really proud of my son, for what he brought into it. One of my great joys, and this because, you spent a week with us, the dynamic that, we have built, not only musically, but, just from a life general element. You and him have become friends and stuff. So, you know the dynamic that I'm talking about. So having not only just a connection, but, an element where he actually gets it. You know what I mean? He understands it. And in his own way, he's a musician as well, too. He writes, he is the indigo monkey. So that, when it finally happened in that, was, for me, was a bucket list. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely. And he did a damn good job on it.
Yes, he did, my brother. All right. So we're going to kick over to that, and then we'll come back and we'll dance a little bit more. So yes, that's one of those little doing a live show, technical fuck ups. Thought I had the right one, but I didn't. Okay, I found the right one. See, this is what you're going to have to look forward to, brother, when you start doing your own show. Unless you produce it behind the scenes, pre-record it, and then do all the fixing and editing, you're going to have these lovely moments where you're basically going to be on stage, and then all of a sudden, you shit yourself. Yeah, Shy is like, I was thinking my phone lost the net. It's like, no, I fucked up. I killed it. And I just had to switch it back because I realized that's not the file. And this is the problem again. I have versions on this. I have MP3 versions when I just want to play it as a music track. And then I have the obvious video version. So MP4 versus MP3.
Easy mistake.
All I saw was Demons MP. My brain didn't translate the number. So I had to expand that window a little bit and just be like, okay, here it is. All right. So now we got it. I found it. It's not going to fuck up. It's not going to fuck up this time. So we're going to,
knock on wood.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. It'd just be my fucking luck. This is the actual video track of Demons. And then, yes, we'll be back again. You know, you did that to me, and inevitably, for whatever reason, it's not actually working. So we're going to have to, yeah, well,
third time's the charm.
Well, you know what? This is going to be like, okay, everybody gets to come for a ride as I actually try and fucking fix this in the moment. So we're going to turn that off. And we're going to try and see if just maybe, if I do this, and hopefully, we're just going to play around here. I'm just going to keep talking. Okay. Yeah, all right. So this is going to require me to do something even more horrific in the middle of a stream. Because I'm going to do it. I'm that asshole. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I thought I had everything set and everything good. But no, I didn't want to. So here we're going to actually pull this back into... And we can see it's trying to download it in the moment. All right. So
this is the universe has a sense of humor dynamic right here.
Right.
What we were talking about when we started.
Yes, I'm gonna have like now again here comes the other thing. So I got to start this now, and then get it to set as it plays. So we're getting it.
me until I'm dead.
So yeah, we actually got it to fucking work. So I was all like, look at the videos folder. Yes, I know it's in the fucking videos folder. It's just I have different versions of things in my particular podcast setup. So it's titled the same fucking thing. Just one's an MP3 versus one's an MP4. So yes, boys and girls, this is why letters and numbers do make a difference. Stay in school. It's better for you. My little public service message for tonight.
Right? Unless you're mildly dyslexic like me, then it makes absolutely no difference. Your brain's going to show you what it wants to show you.
You know what? That's a fair point. Thank you for providing the context on that. I forget sometimes. I am very logical processing kind of, things are what they are, and I just kind of zip through them. But it is worth mentioning that, again, not everybody processes things the same way. Not everybody perceives things the same way. So when you start from that baseline, it makes it easier to be understanding and also to some degrees to better understand how certain things translate. Because there's nothing worse than the communication breakdown. You know what I mean? And you know this, and we've talked about that dynamic. It ultimately just leads to fucking chaos. You know what I mean? And especially when there's an emotional variant to it, you know what I mean? All bets are fucking off.
Most definitely. And I feel like communication breakdowns happen way too much in our society and in our lives as is, but it definitely keeps things entertaining.
Well, there are different levels of entertaining, the Deadpool, two hobos fucking in a shoe full of piss analogy, or, I'm stupid and, on some type of TikTok challenge, I stuck my dick in a blender to see what happened. See, that to me is the entertaining stuff. When you see Darwin's theory raise its hand and be like, hey, I'm still here. I know you thought I was gone, but I'm still here. See this guy right here with his dick in the blender? Guess what? You don't ever have to worry about him contaminating the gene pool from now on.
Or those couples, or that I can think of at least one, who decided to use super glue as lubricant. That was one.
Definitely not. And listen, there's a whole list, and you and I were talking while I was desperately spasticating to get that video to play about taking a deep dive sometime later in the year and really, pull out some of those greatest hits of stupidity and really have a structured assault of the senses.
Yeah. I could write a novel series. It's just, I kind of wall stuff off in my mind, but every now and then it pops back. Oh, yeah, I remember that bullshit. Because you work at a job like mine for 7 years, or even 2 years in, 4 years in, you start to see,
listen,
man,
all you have to do is just open up a newspaper or go on fucking YouTube and, check out the latest rounds of Karen's misbehaving, or, go on Reddit for, who's stupider than stupid. And, that's the beautiful thing about technology is, you pretty much got to hide in your house in a closet if you don't want somebody else to be like, hey,
does that explain Ted Cruz?
There's no escaping it.
Hey, does that explain Ted Cruz? That's the question.
No, listen, I don't know. Like, I love my friends and family down in Texas and stuff like that. I have a lot of compassion, a lot of heart, but I don't have answers. I understand that certain things have gotten spun out into, these crazy, rhetorics of this, that, and the other thing. But, again, at some point, nature abhors a vacuum. So I just imagine, at some point, it's all going to just collapse. And I'm going to sit there. I'm going to have marshmallows ready. You know what I mean? And I'm just going to, I'm going to roast them on, the steaming corpses of, everyday life. My mother says, just go to Walmart. Walmart's a great place if you just want to see the worst of fucking humanity.
I said Ted Cruz. I'm talking Tom Cruise. I'm thinking South Park. I conflated the guys. But yeah, I have.
Well, listen, Ted Cruz, Tom Cruise. I mean, shades of the same type of, you never know exactly what you're going to get. I think they're both. I mean, here's the. I think we can both agree that they're both actors. You know what I mean? I'm just not sure who's playing what part where, because I can't really keep focused on it. But I joke around because I love the old sort, the South Park shots at things like Scientology, and someone like, come sue me, man, come sue me, come get me. I'm exposing you guys. Come get me.
Oh man,
just come out of the closet, Tom. Come out of the closet.
Or you could go LDS if you really want to. I loved when Family Guy just fucking ripped on them for.
Oh, dude, I go after the magic underwear all the time. You know what I mean? Well, listen, again, as far as I'm concerned, and again, I try really hard not to begrudge anybody their spirituality and stuff. But if your shit is born from a crazy guy that wandered out of the woods who was a child molester that said, Jesus said, hey, it's okay to have slaves and fuck underage girls, that's not the Jesus I know. No. And I think you could just as easy, and again, if Joe were here today, and if he were to go out on any given street in New York City and try and sell that particular religious pitch, you and I, crucified. Listen, you and I would both know he'd get a one-way ticket to fucking Bellevue. They'd be like, ha ha, what are you on? And if you're not on something, what do we need to put you on to make the voices go away? Now, that isn't to say that some people probably have had true encounters, call it spiritual, call it whatever you want, and I'm not taking away from that, but I feel pretty confident in the element that Jesus didn't come back and pretty much co-sign pedophilia. You see where I'm going? I'm just not buying into it. This is the guy who hung out with leper and horse. He's not going to endorse slavery and child fucking. It's never going to happen.
No, he wouldn't be crucifying around on that bullshit.
Yeah, but somehow it ended up, and then they had the magic underwear, and then now we have South Park jokes and Broadway plays, and they're accepted. They get to walk around and sit at the adults' table, which is, I guess, almost. I mean, it really is kind of terrifying if you think about it.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is most of those people don't know that, or they deny that. It's not.
Yeah, I listen. I get it. They whitewash the whole thing, and they just conveniently like, well, blah 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 blah, and then just segued into Catholic light or whatever the fuck it is.
Yep. But that seems to be the ongoing thing with many different things. Oh, well, yeah, this wasn't right, but all this other shit that went along with it that conveniently still benefits us and we can get away with is still correct. That's ongoing in many different religions.
There are more holes in it than Swiss cheese, and that, I mean, again, when you're selling the imaginary bullshit product, it's great when, there's no way to correlate it. You know what I mean? You can't put it on a scale. You can't send it to a lab to get it analyzed. It is just literally pure, uncut vapor bullshit, and it is the low hanging fruit because we both know it's the weaponization of hope. It's the weaponization of, the underlying good elements that we could all agree on, from a baseline of humanity. Be like, hey, let's not kill each other. Please don't fuck my wife or my dog, and don't steal my shit.
Oh, don't tell Louis C.K. that. That's going to ruin his idea of opening a store.
Well, he's got bigger problems. He's still trying to buy his way back after getting caught with his dick out. So I got no sympathy for it. You know what I mean?
Me neither.
And don't get me wrong. I understand that it sucks to some degrees. And I've heard a lot of guys be like, well, guys have been doing it for thousands of years. And, why is it getting, well, it's just like, hey, man, it's your time on the wheel. That's just how it is. Everybody has those moments. And, white guys have had it easy for a long fucking time. And then, it happened, and all of a sudden, women and other people were stepping up and just being like, we had enough. It was inevitable, I think. Listen, Monty Python called it back in the 60s. I'm not
justifying for the guy either. I like to make fun of him, because I think that's what happens. I think as soon as you do something stupid like that, you deserve to be made fun of. You deserve to be ridiculed. You deserve to become the butt of everyone's joke.
Listen, I mean, it's better than what we used to do. We used to draw people, we used to take them out and draw and quarter them. You know what I mean?
Well,
so, given the alternatives, or, listen, me personally, and I joke around about it, and we were talking about it Sunday at Ed's house. I want to bring back crucifixion. I think, you take a couple of these crazy little fucking Kia boys and you put them up on a cross in, random neighborhoods. There's a message that's going to be received. You know what I mean? And some people are going to weep, and they're going to be, oh, my kid. And I'm like, listen, man, you should have kept an eye on your kid. You should have done better. Some examples have to be made.
Well, we could make it more modern and entertaining too. We could turn them to disc for skeet shooting for the military.
This, by the way, boys and girls, is satire. We're not actually advocating and saying go out and crucify somebody in your neighborhood. However,
nor load them into a catapult and then shoot.
Well, yeah, exploding kitties. Yeah, But listen, you can run the comedic elements in your mind, and sometimes you can put in a joke. Listen, I know that sometimes my humor goes way outside the box. My mother lets me know. She's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm just like, "Well, I blame you. You're my mother." That's how I just deflect on that particular joke and just come back around to it. But it's also it's also a defense element. It is, in my way, sometimes of deflecting. Sometimes it's a channel for the darker, anger element. So, I'll take a particular thing and I'll twist it because it's better than what else can come out of it. But other times, and you were around, and I'll use this segue, when we come up with, the whole artificial flavoring beaver asshole analogy. Back in the day with the Beaver Queen and stuff like that. And it, it's a great analogy, to really break that down that, somebody out there at some point just decided a beaver's asshole had potential. You see where I'm going? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the thought process
they're probably
behind
from Arkansas, man.
Well, I mean, I have friends from Arkansas. They may take offense to it. My mother's like, no.
Well, so do I. That's exactly why I'm saying it.
But again, if we can't put the spin on it, if we can't put the humor on it, what else can we do? Like, I am not just going to sit and eat the shit sandwich. I refuse. I won't play that way.
Me neither.
I have the luxury, and, again, it's why, I always say, this show is, 1 part, entertainment and 9 parts, cathartic therapy. It gives me a place, to put it out there, to spin it, but also, to try and bring other elements, dare I say, maybe educate, enlighten, a little bit along the way. Because there's always a framework of it. Even within the dark comedy, there's an underlying, aspect. Now, certain things, obviously, and I use, the running joke, everything in the universe is either a duck or it's not a duck.
Now, are we talking about just one kind of duck? Because we got the duck.
Well, see, now that's the Monty Python spin, right?
That's the ceiling here.
Right, the bridge of death. Make sure you ask the correct question, or you're going fucking for a ride to nowhere. But that's a great point. See, you took the Contini context. I'm just like, well, I don't give a shit what kind of duck it is. And as a duck is a duck is a duck.
Yeah, the things just are most of the time.
Yeah.
And
We do what we can to survive it.
right.
See, I caught even you off guard. You're like, okay, how do I retort out of this? It's just like, it's like you're in the sand pit in Myrtle Beach, down by 3 holes, and somebody hands you a straw to drive the ball out with.
There you go.
Yeah,
And the fact
that was just an impromptu.
in 3 months
Right.
doesn't help.
Yeah, it's an impromptu, fucked up golf analogy because when you're in the sand, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, I could, take out my towel and tan, enjoy the view.
Yeah. So sometimes the view is interesting. A lot of it is just born of those organic moments. You know what I mean? As my mother said, you walk into Walmart and any given day, somebody's walking around in their underwear talking to themselves, and, somebody's having a meltdown because, they're checked it and clear fast enough, or, where's the gluten-free bread, and, any number of analogies.
Get laid this morning. They didn't get laid like they were expecting this morning,
Oh, yeah. Or, listen, they woke up on, the underside of the bed, and my mother's like, no, there's Daffy, dark-winged disco duck. Yeah, there's so many analogies on the duck. I always use the dead parrot analogy as well, too. You just, it's dead. You know what I mean? No amount of semantical bullshit is gonna, swing it through. But, if you've ever seen that old Monty Python skit, it's just like, yeah, they'll keep selling it to you. You know what I mean? They'll be like, no, really, it's resting. It's taking a nap.
It's like praying.
No, it's dead. It is showing the hereafter. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yep. Oh man, those kinds of people, they are some of the funnest to fuck with if you can find a way to trap them. If you really watch how they lie like that and try and sell you that shit and play dumb enough, you can work them into a corner, and that's really where the fun begins. If you can get them to make themselves look stupid.
But listen, comedy is a risky business these days. People have become emboldened. And I've seen some shit, where, comics are getting attacked on stage because somebody got fucking triggered. I've seen elements, just as much as I've seen the Karens and the breakdowns. I've seen, some of these other ones where, somebody's, trying to be cute or funny, and, somebody just absolutely becomes unhinged. So, again, I say to everybody out there, with that little footnote reminder that, it's not always the best idea to pull these things out if you don't know what's around you. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, again, if somebody comes up to you with some stupid shit, you don't have a choice. It's in the moment. I've had that scenario play out at shows and stuff when somebody, slathers up all drunk and, you know what I mean? And just, starts to go into some sideways type of thing. I'm just like, yeah, no, fuck you. I'll take my chances. But, in life, we don't always have that, luxury. I was joking with a friend of ours, Oracles, and she just really wanted to unload on some of the people within her school because, they're really just not doing the right thing. And, as a single parent and her trying to raise a kid, it's just like frustrating to deal with stupid, inane people and then preserve your integrity. So, her initial thing was, wanting to mentally fuck them all with a baseball bat, but knowing that anything that she did where she might have had that momentary satisfaction was going to translate back down onto her kid. You know what I mean? And I know my mother went through these dynamics back in the day. Sometimes we got to draw the line in calling the shit out because, we know it's going to reverberate and it's going to create, more damage, which is the shitty end of it for those of us that are, cognizant enough and who care enough that, well, we recognize it, whereas, there's always that, section of the population who just, they don't give a fuck, you know what I mean? They'll literally, like a Louis C.K., they'll just, walk up to you in oldies and pull their dick out and be like, hey, you know what I mean? And as comedic as that sounds, women go through that on Facebook all the time. You know what I mean? The running joke is, please please don't send unsolicited dick pics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we really have to, again, we have to have that conversation. Like, it's not that's like, don't stick your dick in the blender. Why is this even something that has to be discussed? But that's the comedy of it. It's like, well, God told me to pull my dick out.
There may or may not have been a couple times female friends of mine had said, oh, this person you have mutual friends with, I just friended because I knew them through people, sent me a dick pic. And I may or may not have once or twice said, send it to me, and then send it back to the piece of shit.
Oh my God.
Just to fuck with them. Yeah, I don't think they'll be doing that again soon. Hey.
Yeah, listen, there's so many, insane examples of, the what the fuck moment that, you could spend a lifetime trying to absorb it all and not even get past the initial surface of it, unfortunately. But, again, it is a good defense tool. Again, when you're looking at anything and you're forced with that, well, this is, shit, do I try and water it down so it's a little less shitty, or am I going to swallow it, just for what it is? But also, too, in keeping it light and upbeat. You know what I mean? Because it's easy. It's easy to get lost in a narrative. I've seen people lose their shit in traffic. I've seen them lose their shit in the McDonald's, fucking drive through, so many different things. And, with a little bit of comedy, yes, it can be a little bit better. It can take away from it. Shia has confirmed that dicks are not attractive.
No,
she had to share her dick wisdom with us. So, but
yeah, it's even less attractive when the son of a bitch has sent it to some poor and suspecting girl, and he gets it sent back from someone he barely knows and considers a friend.
Yeah, well, herein lies, the irony sometimes, and again, especially, with frameworks of, comedy, you really have to look at the context. I get it. I understand certain people are triggered by certain things. So certain people come out there and that's their thing. That's their shtick. That's their routine, whatever you want to call it, because they know people are going to fucking react. So until we stop reacting, that shit's just going to keep going on. So, when you have people all standing around going, and it's just like, yeah, you're just enabling this type of behavior, and then sometimes it goes to extremes. I was reading this story about this one kid who was a so-called influencer over in England, and basically what he was doing is just like walking into people's houses and just really being just over the top, took a woman's dog and walked away with it, and the magistrate. Yeah, no, true story. And the magistrate, gave him a couple of warnings and finally said, you know what, fuck you. You're going to jail. Stop going in people's houses. I don't care if you think this is funny. I don't care if you think this is art. These are our lines. You can't just randomly walk into somebody's house and set up shop and do what you want because you somehow think you're fucking entitled to it, you know what I mean? Or because it somehow makes comedy because, especially in the case of the old lady and the dog, what the fuck is she going to do? You know what I mean? She's looking at this kid like, he's thug magnificent, and you know what I mean? And, she's not going to say a goddamn thing. She's not going to do anything. She's lucky she didn't have a fucking stroke or a heart attack from the incident. You know what I mean? But, somebody somewhere, thinks that shit is funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. And, it's just sad that that's the direction society's heading. But I was having a conversation with a coworker, is this stuff on the rise, or has it always been this way and we just know more about it now because we have technology?
Technology has enabled the worst elements, I think. So everything now becomes, about the attention, the likes, the shares. We have kind of now framed things into a popularity contest. Who has more, followers? We have people, South Park did a really great thing about the influencers with their drink cred. And it was just basically a rip apart of, all these influencers and these bullshit products that they try and feed people under the guise that, well, if you don't drink this or if you don't wear this, you're less than. And some of it is, again, the narrative of follow the leader. You know what I mean? So, you look at what, you look at what happened at the Grammys, and I think this is a great example and probably where we're going to close it out tonight. But, here's the shitty analogy. The only thing anybody is that I see really talking about from the Grammys is how Miley Cyrus forgot her fucking underwear because she made some offhanded remark to it in her fucking speech. But nobody's really talking about Joni Mitchell finally winning a Grammy for all her years of contribution and music and writing and activism and this, that, and the other thing. So her accomplishment literally got sucked into Miley Cyrus's fucking underwear. Which is really, I mean, again, that's just, and especially for something like the Grammys.
One of many things that has been sucked in there.
Right. And I'm not trying to begrudge or say, that Miley is anything, she's a musician, but when you're going to hold that up against somebody who set the stage for Miley to be able to be a performer, somebody like Joni Mitchell, the history and everything that goes with it, that somehow it gets upended by, this gratuitous, hey, look at my pussy moment. And I get it that it sells things, but the Grammys used to be about celebrating the success of musicians. Now, granted, for many years now, it's become a commercial aspect about, really, who sold more, so it's like any any number of, business related perspectives. And my mother makes a great point. And after coming back from a brain aneurysm, I'm going to have a brain aneurysm as I'm trying to explain it. Yeah, Joni Mitchell's been through some shit. She's seen a lot. She was an iconic voice for many, many years and, really finally, got, I felt, the recognition that she deserved out of the industry. And again, just to me, it was just so fucking disgusting to see it upended. And that was really all the headlines. That was all the talk was Miley Cyrus this, Miley Cyrus that. And there was some talk about how she's being groomed by her security guard. And I'm like, she's a fucking, I think she's what, 31, 32 now. She's probably fucked just as many people as most of your fucking B-list porn actors and actresses and stuff. And she's been public about it. You know what I mean? So, like, who the fuck are we pretending here? It's the same analogy, every time, Britney Spears has a fucking breakdown and goes on Instagram and starts spinning around and just like, well, what the fuck did you expect? You know what I mean? It's not like this started just happening yesterday. This shit's been going on and it's like a slow train wreck. Everybody's standing outside with their phones recording it and just watching it as it rolls on by.
Right. And doing nothing about it simultaneously. The only thing they're doing is putting it out there for everyone else to see.
Right. So what other option do I have but to put a comedic spin on it? Because, obviously she ain't going to listen to anything I got to fucking say or anybody else for that matter. So trying to pretend otherwise is, I think, folly. But, in the same analogy, these are the things that, that we frame within our culture, within our music, within our art and stuff, and then wonder why, kids are going sideways. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we're more worried that somehow the trans movement is going to groom our children versus the rampant pornography that's in pretty much every element of our culture. Watch the Super Bowl Sunday and, tell me that the cheerleaders are there for moral support.
Right. Or, the rampant violence we're letting them see since they're a fucking infant most of the time.
It's just insanity. But listen, that's where we're going to close it out because I have been informed that I have food prepared for me. And as a wolf, one never turns down a home-cooked meal. So this is part of my passion because this witch can cook. Let me tell you something, man. She can fucking cook.
I already know.
Much love, much love. Listen,
Much love.
Thank you for joining me, brother. We'll have you back again. We'll do some more stuff, I'm sure. And yes, she's saying,
Thanks
yes, your
me.
food is ready and waiting. So yeah, we're a little bit after 10 anyway. So, hey, try and hang in there, everybody. If you got to put a comedic spin on it, especially if it's something you're passionate about, do what you got to do. Take what you need, leave the rest behind. I don't know what I'm going to do for the next podcast because it's going to be the 100th episode. I may literally just have to, should I end it at 99 and just leave everybody hanging and never do 100? Like just skip the 100 and go back to 12 or something? Just really just fuck with people?
Just skip to 101. So they're looking for 100.
101's just too easy to miss. They'll just be like, well, the episode 100 must have gotten deleted because he fucked up some copyright thing. Like, I got to be real careful now. Like, even some of the signed bands and stuff like that, this whole musical licensing and artistic licensing, everybody's got a hard on for Steamboat Willie and shit. It's just like, you put an image up there, you use, a section of a song that maybe was related to a song. And, Sony's like, pay me or shut you down. And I'm just like, no. But this is, again, part of what we all have to deal with that. And you know what it really is? What's ironic? It's all about the money. If you go pay and do all these things, come over here and you're fine. But then, only the people who pay for it get to engage with it, which I think is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. But that's just me. It's a show for another time. So I'm going to close it out with a little thing that Greg and I were doing back in the studio. Shia caught this for us. It's just our little hippie take, first run on the Hey Joe thing, just because I'm passionate about it. So until next time, I am the Wolf. Peace out.
Chicago.